Hello, my friends. It's Catherine Ewing from EmotionalFreedomAtLast.com, your Sacred Heart alchemist and emotional freedom catalyst. I wanted to stop by today for a few minutes to address a question that someone posted after my last video. And her question was so pertinent, and I've heard the same question from so many of my clients and actually, had conversations with my clients about that question that I thought I would make a video specifically to address it. And it has to do with the setup phrase that you create before you start tapping or using emotional freedom technique. And as you may know, the classic sort of, default setup phrase as you're tapping here on your karate chop spot is, even though I, have this belief that I'm not deserving, or even though I have all this anxiety, or even though I have this fear of giving this presentation in front of my boss, right? So the even though is the statement of truth, the problem or issue that it is that we're going to be tapping on. And the second part of that setup phrase is a statement of acceptance. So even though, whatever it happens to be, normally we would say, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Well, that's not always an easy phrase for many people to say. And so another option there is, instead of I deeply and completely love and accept myself, would be to say, I accept myself and my feelings. But I have found that with some clients, even that is sort of pushing the boundary of what they feel comfortable with, to say, I accept myself and my feelings. Again, because perhaps there have been so many negative or limiting messages to them about accepting themselves and or accepting their feelings throughout this lifetime, or maybe even other lifetimes, if you believe in that paradigm, that even that phrase is too much, and it sets up what I call sort of a negative dissonance. So when you say, I accept myself and my feelings, or I completely and totally accept my feelings, there's this immediate sort of feedback, backlash, resistance that the ego immediately responds with, which is, no, you don't, those feelings aren't okay, or you can't, you're not acceptable, or some kind of negative response. It's almost like the ego goes on a scavenger hunt, right, to find evidence of why that's not true. It's the same thing that I have found happens with clients when they try to use an affirmation that is, say 180 degrees from their actual situation, or as they see their truth. So if someone who's carrying extra weight around says, I am slim and attractive and vibrantly healthy, and the ego mind is going to say, no, you're not, you fat slob, right? Or something to that effect. Or who do you think you're kidding? You can't keep those donuts out of your mouth, right? It's gonna start with an internal dialogue, which sets up some kind of negative dissonance. And when that happens, there's a negative energy attached to that, right? Because all of our thoughts, all of our emotions have a vibrational frequency. And so if we create this dissonance, we've created a lower, heavier, denser energetic vibration. And that does not serve us, when we're tapping. We don't want to be in that negative place, or in that place of dissonance. So I would invite you to find a phrase that's perhaps a stretch. It's a little bit out of your comfort zone, but that is not going to set up that negative reaction from the ego. So it could be, even though I have this X, Y, or Z, I would like to be able to accept myself. Or even though I have this X, Y, and Z, I choose to say something kind to myself. Or even though I have this ABC, I'd like to believe that I'm a nice person. So I call it creating sort of a bridge statement. It's a little bit less a little bit removed from an I am statement, so it doesn't give the ego something to really come right up and butt up against. It's I choose, or I'd like to, or I think that, or it's possible that I could accept myself, or perhaps it's possible that I could begin to love myself or some part of myself. And so it's like we're removing it a little bit so the ego doesn't have something to really set up resistance against, and we're creating a bridge between where we are and where we ultimately would like to be. It's some movement, it's some stretch, it's out of our current thinking, but it's not so far out that it creates this negative response. So that's the first thing that I would say, is to find a statement of acceptance to make in that second half of the setup phrase that's a little bit outside of your normal thinking, but not so far that it creates that negative energy. The second thing that I would like to suggest is that you actually make that resistance or negative energy the thing that you tap on. So even though it's hard for me to say I love myself, I'd like someday to be able to do that. Or even though I don't accept myself and my feelings, I'd like to be able to accept myself someday. Or even though I don't think I'll ever get over this, I don't think I will ever love or accept myself, it's nice to consider the possibility that I could. So do you see how you can take exactly the thing that's creating the resistance and turn that into a phrase for tapping? And then you could just go along with, I don't believe it. I don't love myself. I'm not good enough. I don't accept my feelings. My feelings aren't acceptable. They never have been. No one has ever accepted me or my feelings. So you can create a whole tapping script or sequence around this very issue. So I wanted to keep this short today, not ramble on and on. Perhaps in my next video, when I've had a little bit more time to think about it, I will do a whole tapping script around this. But for today, I just wanted to give you some ideas about how you might work with that setup phrase in two different ways. One, making it a little softer so that your ego doesn't resist it, or the second, to actually create the setup phrase right around that issue or problem. Okay, so please leave your comments, questions below, and I will get back to you soon with an entire script around this issue for you to be able to use. Okay, take care now. All love. Bye.